Hello, this is Sheena Alexandra, and today we have Warren Roberts from Living Legacy Forest. Living Legacy Forest is a special service dedicated to loved ones that have passed over, and it's a beautiful service that turns ashes into trees, and there's a whole process that goes along with that, and it's such a beautiful contribution to this world. And Warren has a beautiful story, and he's got a really interesting perspective, not only on the world, but this 5G mess that we find ourselves in, which is actually quite inspiring, and I'm really looking forward to sharing more. So hello, Warren, and welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Sheena. Thanks for having me.
So, Warren, I first learned about you at the Grains event a few weeks ago, and I was really impressed with your presentation, and I'm really impressed with your business. I didn't know about your story when I first learned about you, but I'm most impressed with your personal story about where you got to. Can you share a little bit about how Living Legacy was created?
Yeah, well, Living Legacy was created basically as Living Legacy is about just loving life. That's what Living Legacy is about. And the whole premise around it is that the more we appreciate life, the more we enjoy it, the more special and sacred it becomes. And when we take life for granted, the magic of being alive, we can lose that. And so we thought, well, what's the most amazing way a person can leave a legacy on the world? And we think it's that if the legacy that you leave can connect people to the beauty that life creates, then that's something amazing and that's special. And the way that we connect people to the beauty that life creates is by transforming people's ashes into trees, so that when they lose someone, instead of connecting to what they've lost, they connect to the beauty that that person's life has created. Literally, you can literally become a flower, and you can literally create beauty, and that becomes a thing that people connect to. So that's what it's about.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And now you have forests all around Australia. How many trees have you planted, and how long have you been in business for?
We planted over 2,000 trees this year, which is amazing.
Yes.
And we've been in business since 2012, and it all started like after when I lost my best friend. I was depressed for 7 years, and it wasn't until I spent time in nature that it felt good being alive. And the more time I spent in nature, the better it felt. So I spent more time there. And then I let myself feel again, and I let myself feel the hurt and the pain that I'd been avoiding. And it actually felt good to feel, because I'd been so numb for so long. And that's where I thought, wow, what if people's ashes were in trees? And if you could connect to the beauty of being a part of the vast harmonic rhythm we call nature, and that's where the idea came. And then I went to the Government Cemetery Trust and I said, guys, I've got this good idea. And they said, it's not a good idea. Ashes kill trees. Human ashes have the same pH as bleach and oven cleaner. They contain a cup of salt. A cup of salt on a tree is 200 to 2,000 times too high for it to survive. It's devastating to ecosystems, and people with all good intentions, they go to nature because it's beautiful to scatter their ashes, but it's beautiful because the ecosystem's healthy. So going and then putting that high pH, putting that salt in the ecosystem, it's not fulfilling their intention of connecting people to the beauty of nature and perpetuating the cycle of life. So what we do is we've worked with the Government Cemetery Trust for over 2 years now, or over 4 years now, to develop a solution that literally transforms ashes into living molecules that becomes trees and helps them grow. And it might seem like a crazy spiritual idea, but it's a legitimate government adopted solution as well.
That's awesome. And you had to work with a tree scientist to get that formula. I mean, where did you look in the yellow pages, or, how did you find a tree scientist?
Well, this is the truth is like, when I had that revelation in the park, I went to the director of the Botanic Gardens, and I just wanted to thank him for creating a beautiful place, and let him know that the role that place played in my life, and that if it wasn't for him in that beautiful place, I'd still be dead inside. And when I thanked him, I told him my idea, and he goes, look, we don't allow people to scatter ashes here because of this reason. You're going to need to talk to a very specific type of scientist. And so that started me on the path, because I knew nothing about trees or science. So, yeah.
Wow. I mean, that was a key part of this. I mean, I think that was divinely timed, yeah. Because you would have started your business, I don't know, and that would have kind of been a disaster, but you started off on the right foot. And
yeah. A lot of people make a false assumption that human ashes are like wood ashes, and they just go, and based on that assumption, they make a lot of decisions around how to do what we do. And the outcome is got nothing to do with perpetuating the circle of life,
Yeah. So now, do you work with the government to launch these, to plant the trees? It's because it's on government land.
Well, we started in government land because they run all the cemetery, all the cremation facilities. But now we've got a huge amount of support from like the city of Gold Coast and Brisbane. I'm going up there to meet with them next week, and so we're working with like actual cities and state. We're working with state governments, local councils, government cemeteries, and we've got lot of private investors want to create beautiful parks and forests as well. So it's just exploding, and it's exciting.
Do you know what? It's Warren. It's very ironic. I just learned just about 10 minutes before this call that my neighbor upstairs has passed away, and very sad. I mean, we knew that she was dying, but I didn't know. She just passed away a couple of days ago. How would I be able to refer a service like yours, to the family, or how do people get in touch with you when they want to use your service? Because it's a delicate topic, and do you have people coming before they die or during the process? How does that work?
Yeah, all good questions. I think this year we have a lot of, maybe a third of the trees we planted were for people that were alive and well and just wanted to plant a tree with their own hands that they would become. They were like, and so they got to have that experience of choosing their own tree and putting in the earth, and like, one day I'm going to become the tree that I planted. And probably a third of our patrons do that. And and look, in response to and then the rest of them are people that have had ashes generally for 6 months to 10 years, and then they go, I didn't know what to do with them, and now this makes sense. It sounds good. It's they love nature. They would have liked it, kind of thing. So, but look, with your case, I'll send you a gift card that you can give to your neighbour. The gift card is a plantable seed card, and it's basically just says, I'm sorry for your loss. But when you plant this card, some flowers will grow from it, and a tree has been planted in that person's honour in one of our forests, and it's just a beautiful gift card that says, something has been planted in this person's honour that will live on, and this card, when you water it, will flower, and it represents that the way that person lived on this earth is still alive. Because it's the way that we touch people, it still lives on. Whether it's physical or emotional, it's all still alive,
Warren, that is so beautiful. I was telling the daughter, this is so beautiful, because I didn't know this was going to happen. I've been listening to them. They've been rustling around. They're cleaning out the house. And I went out for a couple of minutes because I knew I was going to speak to you. Didn't know if I was going to see anybody pass by, but I had the opportunity to speak to the daughter-in-law. And I just shared with her, because Pam passed away on Sunday, which was the 30th. And I feel over the last couple of days that the 30th has marked a stake in the ground with the activist work that we're going to get into into a few minutes. But there's been such positive synchronicities that have happened. You and I had that awesome conversation yesterday. brand new ideas, brand new support. And I was just saying, I feel like she is the energy that's going to move this forward, because she knew she was an investigative reporter in the 70s and she was a woman. And I thought the strength of this woman back in the day, uncovering what she was doing back then. And I don't know, I just felt her move through me. And the fact that you've just gifted that is it's like the baton being passed through, and it's an extension of life.
The legacy is still alive. The way that she lived and touched other people, it's still alive, you know.
Is.
And to do something that acknowledges that their spirit is still alive. And, you know, people often go spirit and they go, oh, it's a woohoo word. And it's like, no. Like, it's the way we do things. Like at Christmas time, if everyone is giving presents, it's a giving spirit. And if you don't, you're mean-spirited, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's the energy in which you do things. It lives on. It's a fact. It touches other people and it affects other people. You know, that's the most grounded way that I would say what spirituality is. It is the energy in which you do things. You know, it's not your identity. If you think you're a spiritual person because it's your identity, you're missing the point. You don't want to be identifying yourself as spiritual. It's not the point of it all. You know.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And you know, on one breath, it is about spirituality, though, in terms of just this time on earth. And yeah, I don't know. Just to end that note, Pamela from above will be just very honored to know that first of all, this conversation is happening. Second of all, that gift card is you know, that's just a beautiful token. And so thank you very much for that. And I think, you know, I'd love to ask your opinion and talk to you and move through the next part of this chat, which is related to 5G. And the trees are part of this conversation. Mr. Tickle's part of this conversation. Yeah. That was the whole reason why I was there that day when we first spoke was, you know, I'm sort of scared about not scared. I'm going to use my words wisely. I am conscientious that it's not just about the humans that we have to protect, that we also have to think about the trees and the plants. Mr. Tickle and I have had a conversation about this. I want to understand what your trees are going to do in this situation as we move through this 5G apocalyptic future, dystopian, internet of everything, beaming down from space. How should we protect the trees in this situation?
Yeah, good question. Well, the assumption that they need protecting would imply that they're not powerful, that they're not powerful creators, and that's not an assumption that I would adopt, because they're powerful entities. You know, they've existed on this earth for far longer than we have, because they are powerful. So I will relate to them as powerful entities, because
I love that.
You know,
I love that. That's what Penny Kelly, I've talked a lot about Penny Kelly and the biophysicist, Dr. Levengood. His work showed that plants are living, they're energetic, and they're very high vibrational. They are very intelligent, and they're communicating with us. And
they're not powerless.
Yes, they're powerful. Yes.
Oh, if they were powerless, they would need protecting and saving.
That's true.
Powerful. They would be, you know, they're part of creation, and they're transmitting their own energy, their own vibrations in their own way.
That's beautiful. That is very beautiful. And I love that. So let's just talk about the situation. What are your thoughts on, the wireless radiation that's being emitted on the planet from space? We are very powerful. Humans are very powerful as well. We've got more powers than we know we have. And those are the powers I believe we're going to need to tap into as we move through this new, into the new paradigm. But what are your thoughts on 5G? And, you've known this.
I think it's about transmitting energy and vibration and receiving information and energy and vibration. And I think most people are wired to mostly receive information from the outside world and process reality as happening to them. And it's a limited binary function of the mental plane. And I think whereas you see more powerful creators or more people that are sort of that use higher levels of creativity that operate outside the bandwidth of the mental plane, and that really looks like, you know, different vibrations and basically more emitting their own vibrations than just being a receiver for reality, the data that we call reality. They're emitting their own vibrations and they're tuning into what they're creating, and they're creating on that vibrational field. And it's not good or bad, it's just different levels of creativity. One's limited to duality and a mental plane, and the other one is much higher levels of creativity, and it's on the vibrational plane, and it's emitting frequency rather than just receiving it. So, you know what, like I think the name of the game is being an emitter and you know, and being in the energy of whatever you want to create. And it's hard when there are when there are more powerful opponents and obstacles that are in the way and affecting us, for them not to take our attention and focus but the more attention and focus you give that, the more you're going to get stuck in that vibration, you know. So
spot on, Warren. I mean, we had this conversation yesterday that I don't want to be in the vibration of 5G. I don't want to go through a class action lawsuit, because that's going to manifest a class action lawsuit.
You're going to lose the battle if you end up being absorbed in the energy of 5G and being stuck in that, which is a mental plane, which is a seriously limited binary mental plane. If you get stuck on that vibration, you're cooked, man. And but you're a human, and you can exist beyond the limited binary plane, and you can create your own vibrations, and that's what we're here to do, you know.
That's amazing. So let's talk about creating those vibrations. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, I'll give you a couple of metaphors for different levels of creativity. Like one I mentioned to you yesterday, the guy that one of the first guys, firemen, that sort of invented backburning, you know. And he
backburning, for the audience that doesn't know, some people don't know what backburning is because they're in the city, but just share what backburning is.
Backburning is when you deliberately create a fire so that when a bushfire does happen, the area is pre-burned, and then you can control the spread of the fire, right? But 100 years ago or so, it didn't exist as a fire management strategy, and they used to drop firemen in by aeroplanes to fight big fires. And this squad got dropped in behind a fire to fight the fire. And halfway through it, the wind changed direction. And the guys knew immediately that if this happened, there was no scenario where they could outrun the fire and they were going to die. And because they didn't have any choices, they didn't have any options, and their opponent was millions of times bigger and more powerful than them. It's the wind and the fire, right? And so most of his squad ran off, and they ran out of breath and they died, but he was the only guy that survived. And instead of reacting to the problem as if he'd had the power and as if he was powerless, he paused and he connected to what he wanted to create. He remembered his family and what it was all about. And he's found himself pulling out his lighter and lighting the grass around him. He didn't understand what he was doing. He was just following the cues based on his intuition, based on his genius, And the grass around him burned, and they created a patch of area that when the bushfire came, it didn't. So he left the area while it burnt. Then he came back and stood in the area that was pre-burned, and the fire went around him. He got severely damaged, but he was the only person that survived. And that's a high level of creativity in how you relate to the world and reality as having the power and the problem, So that's a good example. And, Hercules.
It's almost like he was tapping into an inner knowing and he didn't doubt it, and he just went with the flow, and it's that connectedness that saved his life.
Yeah,
And
man.
so what, yeah.
That's it. And the truth is, you know what? Obstacles and challenges have always been the most powerful creative force. You know, what's the necessity is the mother of invention, the most powerful creative force. So, you know, so what? There's always going to be things trying to kill us and oppress us and overpower us.
Yeah.
Our job as creators is not to get caught up in that energy and to create what we want, you know.
Yeah.
Hercules is probably the original story of all of this, you know. Hercules, you know, Medusa, one look from Medusa, you turn to stone. You know, all of his muscular strength was never enough to overpower Medusa. She was infinitely more powerful than, and so he couldn't kill her to get, you know, to get the girl. I think that she abducted, something like that. And so when he got the shield, he had to use creativity to overpower her. And so he walked backwards with the shield. And walking backwards with the shield is really talking about using reality as a metaphor, not taking it literally. And when it's not literal and it's more metaphoric, it's as if you're in a dream and things are symbolic, and you are the dreamer of the dream, and you can control it and change it. And that's what the Hercules myth is teaching us, you know. Yeah, how to relate to reality and how to create it.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And it's just on my wavelength as well. Like, I just had an interview a couple weeks ago about being a quantum creator. And we do have quantum physics, which is like the endless possibilities. And we can create, you know, what we talk about. And I just love how, I don't know, you've just offered just a higher level of perception, you know, and it's just and you're just a lot. So you and I have spoken now twice. Our first call was yesterday, not 24 hours ago. And I didn't know what we were going to talk about yesterday. And that wasn't even on the cards when I first reached out to you a couple of weeks ago. So I don't know. I just feel like it's synchronicity. It's synchronicity. Everything is working, and it's because I shifted my mindset. And I don't know. I wasn't dabbling in the 5G issue when you and I had this conversation. So I just feel like there's something about raising the vibration that's going to change this.
5D. It's just Medusa.
Yes.
You know, it's just the fire. Big deal.
Yes.
You know,
yes,
and there's always going to be opponents, and they're always going to have more power, and we get to choose how we relate to them. We get to choose how we create from that. You know? It's the truth.
Yes. So what's in your future, Warren? What do you think about? What's on the cards with Living Legacy? I see that you're doing community outreach and.
That's it. Look, we're in the business of creating the most beautiful parks and forests in the world and connecting people to the beauty that life creates. That's what we do. We love that. I'm just going to keep on creating beautiful parks.
That's awesome.
Connecting people to the absolute magic of appreciating life as a whole. You know, because like. Death makes life finite, and it is that finiteness of it that makes us appreciate it. And if we just skip over death and we don't see what it's offering us, that it's showing us that life is sacred and that we're sacred beings living in a sacred world. We really are. And to skip over death and to lose that gift that it's offering us, it would be foolish. It really would be. And
Do you plant the trees yourself, or do you have somebody doing that?
I would never rob anyone of that gift.
Oh, so they do it themselves, right? Okay.
Yeah, we get everyone gets to plant the trees with their own hand. Yeah.
So is there like a little training course, or like what's the process? I'd love to know.
Yeah. But no. Well, basically, you choose a tree, you choose a location. We treat the ashes. And then you create a tree, and then your tree is part of creating a park and a forest. And I've had experiences with TV crew rocking up, not knowing what they're recording, and they take a step back when we've treated the tree, because it gets like an aura of energy around it. Everyone goes quiet, and they just go, "Wow," you know, and it's like, it's pretty cool.
You've just given me chills. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh. Warren, well, you know what? This is such a beautiful story. And how can people get in touch with you? And what is the process? So, like, what is the process, really? I mean,
the process is, so you go to livinglegacyforest.com and you just send an email through, and one of our consultants will give you a call and find out exactly what your situation is. Some people, they'll have a farm and they want to have a tree on their own farm, or they want to have their tree in a pot plant at home. But most people want to have it in a dedicated place as part of creating something great. And we just work with them. You choose a tree, you choose a location, you be part of creating something beautiful.
Oh, it's so wonderful. It's a wonderful idea, and it's come from your heart. And you really taught me how to, lead from my heart. I was in my head there for so long. And the conversation yesterday, Warren, and the chat today has been really awesome. Really, really awesome. Thank you so much for what you're doing. And we need the trees right now. We need their intelligence.
Yeah, we do, because they're powerful.
They are so powerful. So any closing thoughts? I already speak to Mr. Tickle. I don't know if you can see, but he's got love hearts. He sheds with love hearts. What shall I be talking to the trees about these days? I mean, any advice?
Well, first thing, on the state of the mental place, Milton said the mind is its own place. It can turn heaven into hell and hell into heaven. And that's the limited binary world of the mind. And you did very well to not limit yourself to that realm. And what to talk to the trees about. Talk to the trees about what you want to create, what's truly in your heart, what brings you to life, and what you want to bring into the world. If you can connect to it and experience it in your heart, it's already happened, and it'll start happening. And they're just being in the energy that if you're in the energy of what you're creating, you're going to have the same thoughts from that place, and you'll start having thoughts that you've never had before. You'll know to call the right scientist at the right time at the right place. So be in the energy of what you're creating, be in your heart, and make sure that you take action on your intuition, and things will just start flowing.
That's pretty much the same message that you gave yesterday. You must be like a monk, or do you teach this? You're very spiritual. I mean the spiritual in a good way. I mean, do you practice this, or do you just?
I don't meditate or anything.
Really?
No, I don't. Look, I think meditating's cool. I think people like it. But it's when I was a kid, I read William Blake. I think I was 14, 15 years old. I was in detention, and the headmaster walked in. It was a very strict school, and I had to grab a book to look like I was reading. And I grabbed this William Blake book, and it said, "To see the world in a grain of sand, and heaven in a wildflower, to hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour." And my life changed from that day, from that moment. It did.
Wow. What a great way to end. That's so poetic. Well, Warren, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today. And I'm just so grateful that you're doing what you're doing. And the trees are very grateful as well. Mr. Tickle's happy.
Thanks, Sheena.
Thanks, Warren.